Hey, you. Get ready for a super fun story that's going to grab your attention right from the start. Picture this, a sunny day, a big party, and one grumpy neighbor who didn't like it at all. It was supposed to be the best day ever. My son, Tommy, was turning 6 years old. I'm just a regular dad who loves his kid a whole lot, and I wanted to make him super happy. So, we planned a giant birthday bash right in our backyard. Imagine balloons floating high in the sky, bright red, blue, and yellow ones bobbing around. There was a yummy chocolate cake with 6 candles waiting for Tommy to blow out. Kids were running everywhere, laughing so loud you could hear them from down the street. It was going to be awesome. I could hardly wait to see Tommy's big smile when he saw everything. We had games ready, like tag and a bouncy ball toss, and even a little table with juice boxes and snacks. I'm not a fancy guy, just a dad who works hard and loves his family. My job was to set up the party and make sure everyone had fun. The backyard looked like a dream, with streamers hanging from the trees and music playing from a little speaker. Tommy was so excited he kept jumping up and down, asking, "Is it time yet, Dad? Is it time?" I'd laugh and say, "Almost, buddy. Just wait a little more." Everything was perfect, or so I thought. But here's where the trouble starts creeping in like a sneaky shadow you don't notice at first. See, we've got this neighbor named Karen. Yep, that kind of Karen, the one everyone talks about. She's not just any neighbor, she's the boss of our HOA. That's a group that makes rules for our neighborhood, like how tall your grass can grow or if you can paint your house a fun color. Karen loves those rules more than anything. She's always walking around, peeking over fences, looking for something to complain about. If your dog barks too loud, she's there with her notebook. If you leave a bike in your driveway, she's knocking on your door with a frown. Most people in the neighborhood just roll their eyes when they see her coming. "Oh, it's Karen again," they'd say, and then go back to whatever they were doing. I'd seen her around before, but I never thought she'd bother me. I mean, I'm a nice guy. I keep my yard neat, I say hi to everyone, and I don't cause trouble. Tommy's a good kid too. He's small for his age, with big brown eyes and a giggle that makes you smile even if you're having a bad day. We're just a normal family living in a normal house with a little backyard. It's got a wooden fence, a swing set for Tommy, and a spot where I grill hot dogs sometimes. Nothing fancy, but it's ours, and we love it. So, when I was planning this party, I didn't even think about Karen. I was too busy blowing up balloons and making sure we had enough cupcakes. The morning of the party started out great. The sun was shining, not a cloud in the sky, and the air smelled like summer. I got up early to set everything up. I tied balloons to the fence, put out chairs for the parents, and made a big sign that said, "Happy birthday, Tommy," in bright blue letters. Tommy was running around in his new superhero shirt, pretending he could fly. "Look, Dad, I'm zooming," he shouted, and I'd cheer him on. Kids started showing up with their moms and dads, all carrying little presents wrapped in shiny paper. Soon, the backyard was full of noise, happy noise, like kids giggling and shoes squeaking on the grass. It was exactly what I'd hoped for, a day full of fun for my little boy. But Karen? She didn't see it that way. I didn't know it yet, but she was watching from her house across the street. Her place is big and fancy, with perfect flowers in the front and curtains that are always closed. She's older than me, with short hair and glasses that she pushes up her nose when she's mad. And trust me, she gets mad a lot. People in the neighborhood tell stories about her, like the time she yelled at Mr. Johnson for mowing his lawn too early, or when she called a meeting just to say no one could have lemonade stands. She's the kind of person who thinks she's in charge of everything, even the stuff that's none of her business. I was too busy to notice her at first. I was flipping burgers on the grill, the smoke making my eyes water a little, while Tommy and his friends played a game of chase. The music was on, just loud enough to make it feel like a real party, but not so loud it'd bother anyone, or so I thought. Parents were chatting, kids were shouting, and I was running back and forth to make sure everyone had what they needed. "More juice, Dad," Tommy called, and I'd grab another box from the cooler. It was busy, but it was the good kind of busy, the kind that makes you feel happy inside. Then, out of nowhere, I saw something move near the fence. It was quick, like a flash, and I turned my head. There she was, Karen, standing on her tiptoes, peeking over the top of the wood. Her eyes were narrow, like she was looking for something bad. I waved at her, thinking maybe she'd smile and wave back. "Hey, Karen," I called, trying to be friendly. "It's Tommy's birthday today." But she didn't wave. She didn't smile. She just stared, her lips pressed tight together, like she'd bitten a sour lemon. Then she turned and marched back to her house, her shoes clicking on the sidewalk. I shrugged it off. Oh well, I thought. Maybe she's just having a grumpy day. Boy, was I wrong. I had no idea what Karen was about to do. See, while I was busy being a dad, making sure Tommy's party was perfect, she was making a plan. A big, mean plan that would flip everything upside down. I didn't know it yet, but this wasn't just a regular day anymore. It was the start of something wild, something that would make everyone at the party stop and stare. Karen wasn't just a nosy neighbor, she was about to become the biggest troublemaker I'd ever met. And me? I'm just a dad who wanted his kid to have a happy birthday. I had no clue she was going to turn Tommy's big day into a giant mess. Okay, picture this, the party was going so great. Kids were all over the backyard, screaming with big, happy smiles because they were having the best time ever. You could hear them yelling, "Tag, you're it," as they ran around like little tornadoes. The music was playing from my little speaker, happy songs that made you want to dance. I was standing by the grill, flipping hot dogs, and oh man, they smelled so good, like summer and fun all mixed together. The smoke tickled my nose, and I had to wipe my eyes a little, but I didn't mind. It was Tommy's big day, and everything was perfect. Kids were laughing, parents were chatting, and the sun was still shining bright in the sky. It wasn't even close to nighttime yet. But then bam, trouble showed up out of nowhere. I heard fast, loud steps, like someone stomping really hard. I turned my head, and there she was, Karen. Yep, that Karen, the grumpy neighbor who's always mad about something. She came storming up to our gate like she was on a mission. Her face was super red, like a big, ripe tomato you'd see at the store. She looked so angry, I thought steam might come out of her ears. She pushed the gate open with a big shove and stood there, hands on her hips, staring at me like I'd done something terrible. "This noise is unacceptable," she shouted, her voice loud and sharp. She pointed her finger right at me, wagging it back and forth like she was the boss of the whole street. I blinked, surprised, because I didn't think the party was that loud. The kids were just playing, and the music wasn't even turned up all the way. I took a deep breath and tried to stay calm. I didn't want to fight, I just wanted Tommy to have fun. "So," I said, "Karen, it's a kids' party. It's not even dark yet." My voice was nice and steady, like when you talk to a teacher or a friend. I thought maybe she'd see it was no big deal. It was only the afternoon, and parties are supposed to be happy, right? But Karen? She didn't care one bit. Not even a little. Her eyes got all squinty, and her mouth turned into a mean smirk, like she had a secret plan. "Oh, you think you can just break the rules," she said, her voice sneaky and loud at the same time. Then she reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. She held it up high, like it was some kind of weapon, and started tapping on the screen. "I'm calling 911, she said, looking right at me with that smirk still on her face. "You'll see what happens when you disrespect the rules." Her words hit me like a splash of cold water. 911? That's for emergencies, like if someone's hurt or there's a fire. This was just a birthday party with balloons and cake. Why was she acting like it was a big crime? I stood there, shaking my head, not sure what to say. The hot dogs were sizzling on the grill behind me, and I could hear Tommy laughing with his friends. I didn't want this to ruin his day. "Karen," I said again, "it's just kids having fun. Please don't do this." But she wasn't listening. She put the phone to her ear and turned away a little, like she didn't even want to look at me anymore. I could hear her talking fast, saying stuff like, "Yes, hello, I need help." She sounded so serious, like something really bad was happening. I felt my tummy twist up a little. Was she really going to get the police to come to Tommy's party? Over some noise? Meanwhile, the kids didn't even notice her. They were too busy running around, chasing each other and kicking a big red ball across the grass. The parents were still sitting in their chairs, sipping juice and talking about school or whatever grown-ups talk about. No one else seemed worried except me. I looked at Karen again, standing there by the gate, her red face getting even redder as she yelled into her phone. She kept pointing at the yard, then at me, like I was some kind of bad guy. I didn't get it. Why was she so mad? It's not like we were breaking any big rules. The HOA says we can have parties, just not super late at night. And it was only, like, 3 o'clock. I started to feel a tiny bit mad myself. I mean, I worked hard to make this day special for Tommy. I blew up all those balloons, I made sure the cake was just right, and I even picked out his favorite songs for the music. And now here was Karen, trying to mess it all up. But I didn't yell back. I just stood there, flipping the hot dogs, trying to keep cool. I didn't want the kids to see me upset. Tommy was still zooming around in his superhero shirt, pretending he could fly, and I didn't want him to stop smiling. Not for anything. Then I noticed something funny, something Karen didn't see. While she was busy shouting into her phone, a couple of guys at the party were acting kind of different. They weren't playing with the kids or eating snacks like the other grown ups. They were standing off by the swing set, talking quietly to each other. One of them had his hand near his belt, like he was holding something there. I squinted to see better, but I couldn't tell what it was. They didn't look worried or mad, they just looked ready. Ready for what? I didn't know yet. I thought maybe they were just quiet dads who didn't like big crowds. I shrugged and turned back to the grill. Hot dogs don't flip themselves, you know. Karen kept going, though. Yes, officer, it's loud and out of control, she said into her phone, her voice getting higher and higher. She sounded like she was telling a big story, making it way worse than it really was. I wanted to laugh, but I also wanted to groan. This was so silly. A birthday party isn't out of control, it's just fun. But Karen didn't think so. She hung up the phone and crossed her arms, looking at me like she'd just won a prize. They're coming, she said, all proud. You'll be sorry you didn't listen to me. I just shook my head again. She had no idea what was really going on, stuff she couldn't even guess. The party kept rolling, the kids kept laughing, and I kept cooking. But deep down, I felt this little spark of worry. What if the police really did show up? What if they made everyone go home? Tommy would be so sad, and I didn't want that. Still, something told me this wasn't over yet. Karen thought she was in charge, but there was more to this day than she knew. Way more. And it was about to get wild. Okay, things were getting weirder by the minute at Tommy's birthday party. Karen was still standing by the gate, her phone pressed tight to her ear, yelling like she was in the middle of a big emergency. Yes, officer, it's an emergency, she shouted, her voice loud enough to bounce off the trees. A loud, illegal gathering. Illegal. I almost dropped my spatula right into the grill. This was just a bunch of kids playing and eating cake, not some sneaky, bad guy meeting. But Karen didn't see it that way. She was waving her free hand around, pointing at the balloons and the kids like they were doing something awful. I could hear her talking fast, saying stuff like, they're breaking all the rules. I wanted to roll my eyes so hard, but I just kept flipping the hot dogs, trying to stay calm. While Karen was busy being loud, I noticed something strange, something that made my tummy feel funny, like when you're about to go down a big slide. There were these two guys in the crowd, and they weren't acting like everyone else. Most of the parents were sitting on chairs, sipping juice, or chasing their kids around with big smiles. Some kids were popping balloons just to hear the bang, and others were sneaking extra cookies from the table. But these two guys? They were different. They were standing off to the side, near the swing set, away from all the fun. They weren't laughing or eating cake or anything. They were just there, talking super quietly to each other, like they didn't want anyone to hear. I squinted to get a better look. One guy was tall, with a blue shirt and a baseball cap pulled low over his eyes. The other was shorter, wearing a gray jacket even though it was warm outside. They didn't look mad or happy, they just looked serious. The tall guy kept his hand near his belt, not moving it much, like he was holding something important there. I couldn't see what it was because his shirt was in the way, but it made me wonder. Were they waiting for something? At first, I didn't think too hard about it. Maybe they're just shy, I told myself. Some grown ups don't like big parties. I mean, My cousin Mike hates crowds, so he always stands off by himself at family stuff. Maybe these guys were like that. But then I started watching them a little more, just out of the corner of my eye while I handed out hot dogs. They weren't chasing balloons or clapping for the kids like the other parents. They kept looking around, their heads turning slow and careful, like they were checking everything out. The short guy nodded at something the tall guy said, and then they both glanced over at Karen. That's when I got this weird tingle, like the kind you feel when you know a secret but don't know what it is yet. It started in my toes and went all the way up to my head. Something was up, but I couldn't figure it out. Not yet. Meanwhile, the kids didn't even notice any of this. They were too busy having fun. Tommy was running around with his best friend, Jake, pretending they were superheroes saving the world. Zoom. Pow, they shouted, jumping off the little picnic table like it was a tall building. The other kids were kicking a big red ball back and forth, giggling every time it bounced into the bushes. One little girl with pigtails was covered in chocolate frosting from the cake, and her mom was trying to wipe her face with a napkin. It was loud and messy and perfect, just how a kid's party should be. They had no idea Karen was on the phone, trying to stop it all. Karen kept going, though. Yes, it's happening right now, she said into her phone, her voice getting higher and squeakier. You need to send someone fast. She sounded so sure of herself, like she was the smartest person in the world. I could hear bits of what she was saying, even over the music and the kids yelling. She was telling the police it was a big problem and that no one should be allowed to do this. I wanted to laugh because it was so silly, but I also felt a little nervous. What if the police really came? Would they make us stop the party? Tommy would be so sad if he couldn't blow out his candles or open his presents. I looked back at the two guys again. They were still standing there, super quiet, watching everything like hawks. The tall one moved his hand a tiny bit, and I thought I saw something shiny under his shirt like metal or something. My heart did a little jump. Was it a phone? A key? I couldn't tell, but it made me curious. They didn't seem worried about Karen yelling, they just kept their eyes on her, then on the yard, then back to her. It was like they knew something I didn't. I started to wonder if they were here for a reason, not just to eat cake and watch kids play. The party kept going, loud and happy, but that tingle in my tummy wouldn't go away. It was like when you're playing hide and seek and you know someone's about to jump out and surprise you. I handed a hot dog to Tommy's friend Sarah, who said, "Thanks, Mr. Tommy's dad," with a big grin. I smiled back, but my brain was spinning. Karen was still by the gate, pacing back and forth now, her phone still in her hand. She'd hung up, I guess, because she wasn't talking anymore. She just stood there, arms crossed, glaring at me like I'd ruined her whole day. "You'll see," she muttered, loud enough for me to hear. "They're coming, and then you'll be sorry." I didn't say anything back. I just kept doing my dad stuff, passing out food, picking up a juice box that fell on the grass, making sure Tommy was okay. But that tingle kept growing. Those two guys weren't moving, they were like statues, watching and waiting. And Karen? She was so busy being mad that she didn't even notice them. She didn't see how they looked at her, or how they stood so still, like they were ready for something big. I started to feel like this wasn't just about a noisy party anymore. Something was hiding, waiting to pop out, and Karen was walking right into it without a clue. The kids kept playing, the music kept going, and the hot dogs kept cooking. But me? I couldn't shake that feeling. Something huge was coming, I could feel it in my bones. And whatever it was going to change everything. Karen thought she was in control, but she had no idea what was really happening behind the scenes. Not yet. What do you think was about to happen? Hold on, because this story's about to get even wilder. Okay, hold on tight because this is where the party gets super exciting. Everything was loud and crazy, kids were still running around, giggling and shouting, the music was bouncing through the backyard, and I was flipping hot dogs like a champ. But then, all of a sudden, we heard something new. Sirens. Yep, those loud, wailing noises you hear when police cars or fire trucks are zooming down the street. They started far away, like a little hum, but they got louder and louder fast. Woo woo woo, they went, cutting through the air. My heart did a little jump, like when you miss a step on the stairs. What was happening now? I looked over at Karen, still standing by the gate with her arms crossed, and oh boy, her face changed quick. Her eyes got big and shiny, like she'd just found a giant pile of candy. She clapped her hands together once and pointed at me with a huge, mean smile. "See," she said, her voice all bouncy and proud. "The police are coming for you." She sounded so happy, like she'd just won the biggest prize at a game. She crossed her arms again, rocking back on her heels, staring at me like I was in big trouble. "I told you," she gloated. "You should have listened to me." I just stood there, holding my spatula, not sure what to say. The sirens were getting closer, and I started to wonder, were the police really coming because of a kid's party? But then bam, something amazing happened. Those two quiet guys I'd been watching, the ones standing by the swing set, started moving. They didn't run or shout, they just stepped forward, calm and strong, like superheroes walking into a big scene. The tall one in the blue shirt and the short one in the gray jacket came right up toward Karen. Everyone else was still playing or eating, but I couldn't take my eyes off them. They reached under their shirts, and guess what? They pulled out shiny badges. Badges like the ones police officers wear, all silver and official looking. My mouth opened a little because I couldn't believe it. The tall guy held his badge up high so Karen could see it. "Ma'am," he said, his voice deep and firm, like a teacher telling you to sit down. "Put the phone down. We're already here." His words hit the air like a big drum beat. Karen froze. Her phone was still in her hand, she'd been holding it tight, ready to call again or something, but now it just dangled there. Her eyes went super wide, and her jaw dropped so low I thought it might fall off her face. She looked like she'd seen a ghost or a monster or something totally wild. That smug, happy look she had. Gone. Melted away like ice cream on a hot day. I couldn't help it, I started to grin. A big, goofy grin that stretched across my face. Because here's the best part, those two guys weren't just random dads or shy parents like I'd thought. Nope. They were cops, real, actual police officers. But they weren't here to stop the party. They were my friends from the neighborhood, off duty, which means they weren't working right now. They'd come to celebrate Tommy's birthday with us. I'd known them for a while, they lived a few streets over, and we'd chat sometimes when I saw them walking their dog or mowing their lawn. They were super nice guys, always waving at Tommy when he rode his bike. I'd invited them to the party because they're part of our little world here, and they said, sure, we'd love to come. Karen didn't know any of that, though. She'd been so busy yelling and calling 911, thinking she was going to ruin everything, that she didn't even notice them standing there the whole time. They'd been watching her, quiet as mice, while she made her big fuss. And now they were standing right in front of her, badges out, showing her she wasn't as smart as she thought. Her face went from red to white in, like, 2 seconds. She opened her mouth to say something, but nothing came out, just a little squeak, like a mouse caught in a trap. The sirens were still getting louder, closer now, but I wasn't worried anymore. I looked at my cop friends and gave them a little nod, like, thanks, guys. The tall one, he's called Mike, gave me a tiny smile back. The short one, Joey, kept his eyes on Karen, making sure she didn't try anything funny. The kids were still running around, totally happy, not even hearing the sirens over their own noise. Tommy zoomed by me, yelling, "Dad, look, I'm flying," and I laughed. Even with all this craziness, my little guy was having the best day. Karen finally found her voice, but it was all shaky now. What?" she stammered, looking at the badges like they were magic or something. You're police." She sounded so confused, like her brain couldn't catch up. Mike nodded, all serious. "Yes, ma'am," he said. "We're here for the party. No laws being broken. You can calm down now." Joey added, "And maybe don't call 911 unless it's a real emergency, okay?" His voice was nice but strong, like he meant it. I couldn't stop smiling. Karen's big plan to get me in trouble? It was falling apart right in front of her. She thought the sirens meant she'd won, but she didn't know the real police were already here and they were on my side. The other parents started to notice now, turning their heads to see what was going on. A couple of them whispered to each other, pointing at Karen and the badges. One mom even giggled a little, covering her mouth with her hand. Karen's face got red again, but this time it wasn't from being mad, it was from being embarrassed. The sirens were super close now, probably just a street away. I could see flashing lights bouncing off the trees through the fence. But I wasn't scared anymore. I knew Mike and Joey had this under control. Karen took a step back, her phone slipping into her pocket like she didn't want to touch it anymore. She looked at me, then at the cops, then at the ground. That smug look she'd had, the one that said, "I'm better than you." It was gone, replaced with pure shock. She didn't know what to do, and I could tell she hated that. I turned back to the grill, still grinning, because this was too good. Karen thought she was going to stop the party, but she'd walked right into the biggest surprise ever. My cop friends were here, the kids were happy, and the hot dogs were almost ready. Whatever happened next, I knew we were going to be okay, and Karen, she was about to learn a big lesson. What do you think happens when the real police show up? Stick around, because this is just getting better. Alright, here's where everything wraps up nice and happy. A few minutes after the big surprise with my cop friends Mike and Joey, the real police showed up. Yep, the ones Karen had called with her 911 emergency. I heard the sirens stop, and then two officers walked into the backyard through the gate. They had shiny badges too, and their blue uniforms made them look super official. One was a lady with a ponytail, and the other was a guy with a big mustache. I got a little nervous for a second. Would they really shut down Tommy's party? But then they saw Mike and Joey standing there, holding up their own badges, and everything changed. The mustache cop looked at Mike and grinned. "Hey, Mike, what's going on?" he asked, like they were old pals. Mike smiled back and pointed at Karen, who was still standing by the gate, looking all confused. "This lady called you guys," Mike said. "She thinks a kid's birthday party is a big crime." The lady cop turned to Karen and raised her eyebrows. Then she looked around, kids running, balloons bouncing, parents laughing, and she started to chuckle. "False alarm, lady," she said, shaking her head. "This is no emergency." Karen's face went all twisty, like she'd eaten something sour. She stepped forward, waving her hands. No, wait," she stammered, her voice all shaky. "They're breaking HOA rules. The noise, it's too loud. I'm in charge here." But the cops weren't listening. The mustache cop just laughed again, louder this time, and said, "Ma'am, a party isn't against the law. You need to relax." Joey nodded and added, "Yeah, and calling 911 for this? That's not okay unless it's a real problem." Karen opened her mouth to argue more, but no one cared what she had to say anymore. She looked so silly standing there, trying to boss everyone around when she'd already lost. And guess what? The party didn't stop, it got even better. The kids cheered louder, like they knew something fun had happened. "Yay! Cake time!" Tommy shouted, and all his friends ran to the table where the big chocolate cake was waiting. The parents started clapping, happy that the grumpy lady didn't ruin the day. Even the two new cops stuck around for a bit. The lady cop grabbed a slice of cake and said, "This is good stuff," with a big smile. Mustache cop took a hot dog from the grill and gave me a thumbs up. "Nice party, man," he said, and I felt so proud. Karen just stood there for a minute, watching everyone have fun without her. Her shoulders slumped, and her face got all droopy. She looked like a balloon that lost all its air. Then, super quiet, she turned around and slinked back to her house across the street. Her shoes didn't even click loud anymore, she just shuffled away, defeated. I almost felt bad for her, but then I remembered how she tried to stop Tommy's big day. She didn't win this time, and that felt fair. Later that day, after the party was over and the kids went home with their parents, I heard something cool. One of the neighbors told me the HOA board, those people who make the rules, found out what Karen did. They weren't happy. They gave her a warning, like a note that says, "Don't do that again." They said calling the police for no good reason was a waste of time, and she could get in bigger trouble if she kept it up. I smiled when I heard that. Karen thought she was the boss, but even her own group told her she was wrong. The party ended with Tommy blowing out his candles, everyone singing happy birthday, and lots of laughs. He got a new toy truck from his friend Jake, and he hugged me tight. "Best day ever, Dad," he said, and my heart felt all warm. Karen tried to mess it up, but she couldn't. I guess she learned not to mess with a dad who's got friends in the right places like cops who love cake. The day was ours, and justice was served, nice and sweet, just like the frosting on Tommy's cake. What a win. Wow, what a day that was. Tommy's birthday started as a simple party with balloons and cake, but it turned into a big showdown no one expected, not even me. Karen came in all loud and bossy, thinking she could stop the fun, but she didn't win. Nope, not even close. It just goes to show something pretty cool. Sometimes the people who yell the loudest and act like they're in charge don't really have much power. They puff up big, like a balloon, but there's not a lot holding them up. And then there's the quiet ones like my cop friends Mike and Joey who don't say much but end up being the strongest when it matters most. Think about that for a second. Karen was shouting and calling the police, waving her arms like she owned the whole world. But me? I just kept flipping hot dogs, trying to keep Tommy happy. And Mike and Joey? They stood there super calm, watching everything, ready to step in when the time was right. They didn't need to yell or make a fuss, they had the real power all along. It's kind of like how a little seed can grow into a giant tree without making any noise. The loud stuff might grab your attention, but the quiet stuff can surprise you in the best way. So, what do you think? Have you ever had a Karen try to ruin your day? Maybe someone who got mad about something silly, like a game being too loud or you laughing with your friends. I'd love to hear your stories, drop them down below so we can all read them. It's fun to share and see we're not alone when stuff like this happens. And hey, if this story made you smile or laugh or even cheer when Karen had to walk away, give it a big thumbs up. That way, I'll know you liked it, and it'll make me happy too. This whole crazy day taught me something big. You don't have to be the loudest to be the strongest. You can be like me, just a regular dad, or like Mike and Joey, chilling with cake until it's time to shine. Keep doing your thing, even if someone tries to stop you, because the good stuff like friends, family, and a party with hot dogs always wins in the end. So, stay kind, stay happy, and don't let the Karens of the world get you down. You've got your own power, even if it's quiet. See you in the next story, can't wait to tell you another fun one. Bye for now.